Hurts takes the snap. He's back. He's going to run. He's in! Touchdown! Jalen Hurts! The Eagles are just devouring the Giants. And it is A.J. Brown again! Another touchdown!
Welcome back to the Linc Lineup. This is episode 14, the Riley Cooper episode. We're going to talk about the game we just watched. The Eagles beat the Washington Commanders 34-31. So we're recording Sunday afternoon, about an hour and a half after the game. We're going to give you our first hot takes, our first reactions, initial reactions, whatever you want to call it. So Bryce, let's get this thing started. Offensively, there were some bumps, there were some highs, there were some lows, and there was everything in between. Coming out of this game, what do you feel about the offense?
I think this was the game the passing offense actually got it together. I mean, passing offense looked great. I will say I didn't like some of the decisions by Brian Johnson because he completely abandoned the run. It seemed like he was like, forget this shit.
He gave the ball to Kenneth Gainwell on 3rd and 11. He didn't abandon it completely.
Fucking stupid decision, dude. What do we? Oh my god! But seen a tweet. Somebody was like, did DeAndre Swift just cuss out Brian Johnson or something, or what happened? Because he is no longer on the field and is not even seeing the field. But other than that, Jalen had a good game. I think he threw for over 300 today and
319 exactly.
Had 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And no turnovers. That was the biggest thing. He looked good. You actually saw a little emotion from Jalen after that A.J. Brown touchdown, which, dude, that shit got me hyped. I don't know about you, but seeing Jalen actually fired up, he's just so a calm, cool, collected person. He doesn't show any emotion in anything. And seeing that got me ecstatic. But I think they played good today. I liked it.
Yeah. I tweeted out Jalen's back after, what was it? It was a deep pass. I think it was probably that the A.J. Brown on the sidelines, dropping the bucket pass he had. But, the offense, passing-wise, they did okay. I feel like you can't complain. A.J. had 9 for 175. Devontae had 7 for 78, and that amazing catch. Wasn't a full-on boss, as the cool kids would call it. But he got up there.
Oh, yeah.
He made the play. We saw some things from DeAndre Swift lining up as a wide receiver on that holding play.
Jamin Davis was cooked.
Yeah. If Jalen hits him in stride, who knows where that goes? And then Olamide Zaccheaus, he did some things. He caught one pass for 11 yards,
and that was a very needed catch. That was a very big catch.
It definitely was. His impact was felt throughout the game.
He made some effort plays. That first AJ touchdown, because you texted me about it and it was like, did you see him? And I was like, no, I missed it. And then they showed the replay, and Buddy was in a dead full fucking sprint to go block somebody. And I was like, dude, that's what you need from a receiver. That's what you absolutely love to see from somebody.
Yeah, because most receivers, in my opinion, would just be watching.
Yeah.
But the best part was when the first replay showed up, or even in real time, you see this number 13 go across the screen just out of nowhere, and he just goes trying to make a block, and his block wasn't the best, but it was an effort block. He was down. He ran the whole field just to get down there and secure the touchdown.
It definitely affected AJ scoring that touchdown.
It did. AJ wanted that touchdown bad. AJ wanted everything. He did everything he could to make sure that touchdown happened. Yeah. He was going left, right, straight, whatever it took. He wanted to make sure he got a touchdown finally.
Big Boy was gassed too. After that, they showed him on the sideline. He was a little gassed after that.
He definitely was. And what a great matchup between him and Emmanuel Forbes. Not in the way where I think it was competitive. I think AJ won that very easy. I do think Emmanuel Forbes is, like I said in the last pod, Bryce wasn't here, but I think AJ Brown outweighs him by 60, 70 pounds. You could definitely tell on some plays
Yeah,
because he couldn't bring AJ down.
no.
So,
I will give Emmanuel Forbes some credit. He did make some plays on the ball today on a couple reps that he had against AJ that I definitely feel like AJ probably should have won them, but Emmanuel Forbes definitely made his presence there on some of them, but he got cooked today. I'll just go ahead and say that because I remember I've seen the thing on Twitter all day today is that he was very excited to see or play against like because like when he first got drafted, they did an interview with him and said who's the person you want to go against in the NFL, and his first thing to say was Devontae Smith because Devontae Smith put up like 250 something yards against them in college,
yeah.
and turns out he didn't get Devontae today. AJ Brown, you don't get Devontae, and you turn around and your matchup is AJ Brown, and almost the same result.
Yeah.
So welcome to the NFL, bud.
And AJ, I believe he went to Ole Miss, right? So
Mhm.
Ole Miss, Mississippi State. So there might be something there, might not be. But like I said, AJ won that matchup. And overall, the offense they had their ups and downs. But it was nice to see their ups, especially whenever you see Jalen drop back in the pocket and just actually launch a ball, and it looks like it's going to somebody instead
Yeah.
of like just
Him
nowhere.
standing there, you're like, are you going to throw the ball or is just nobody open?
Yeah,
Because that was like the biggest concern for me entire year so far. Because you would sit there and watch him, and he's just standing there, standing there, standing there. I'm like, dude, nobody has to be open downfield. I was like, I don't know what coverage that they're playing or just dropping everybody back in coverage that literally nobody is getting open. And that was like the most concerning thing for me. I was like, oh God, dude.
yeah. I think so. We're week 4. We watched 4 games so far. You and I watched we call it the all 22 camera in Tampa because we were in the nosebleeds. It feels like there's people that are open, but he's not just pulling the trigger right away. He seems hesitant to make a mistake. But at the end of the day, I still believe that he'll be okay and he'll figure it out and he'll become Jalen of last year because that's what we need if we want to make a serious run um, come playoff time. Uh, so like again, as we said, from week 2, week 3, week 4, now they took a step in the right direction,
Yeah.
especially because we did have some. I mean, AJ had a 59-yard touchdown. That's exciting. We haven't had that yet.
Yeah.
Uh, the closest thing was the Lamade Zacchaeus touchdown from last week. But overall, pass offense did good. I would like to see Dallas Goedert more involved. He made some key catches though, but I'd like to see him more involved. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing as far as scheme goes, but
Yeah. He had a tough catch against Cam Curl today. It just barely got over the tips of Cam Curl's fingers, which I
it's a beautiful
mean,
pass.
that was a great throw. But it was also in a big spot of the game where it felt like they needed to convert a first down there. But
Um,
like you said, I would definitely like to see him more involved. As long as it's not some of these dumbass bubble screens that we continue to run in spots. I wish they would just trash that shit out of the playbook completely. I
well,
I hate watching it.
glad you mentioned that because that Devontae Smith bubble screen could have been a touchdown if he would have broke that tackle from Kendall Fuller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If he would have broke that off, we could have been talking about a big Devontae Smith game. But Kendall Fuller made a great play. Um, so we're here. We're talking about bubble screens being asked. Um, but we talked about the pass game. Let's talk about the run game a little bit. Um, I feel like DeAndre Swift had. I feel like now that you've seen success in the past couple of weeks, with the run game, especially with Taylor Swift. Teams are going to focus on that more, and this is where the passing game will open up a little bit. Taylor Swift didn't have a wonderful game. It was 14 for 56 with a touchdown. His longest rush was 8 yards, but he's still effective, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the broadcast brought it up, and they're like, it kind of looks like Le'Veon Bell, and I've said that since week 2. Is like because he just kind of he'll stop and he'll like kind of
Yeah,
wait, and
he's
then
real patient.
yes, and then he'll hit the whole hard, and he's hitting it quickly. He's fun to watch, and I can't wait to see what they do with him as far as the passing game goes as well. Because, like I said earlier, they lined up as a wide receiver. He made some plays, but I want to talk about this. Kenneth Gainwell had a fumble. It could have been a very, very bad fumble for a guy that the Eagles staff trusts, and they give him the ball in the games. You can't be filming the ball like that because there was only one Eagle around that ball, and it was Lane Johnson.
Yeah,
And thank God he was there. So can we stop letting Kenneth Gainwell touch the ball? Maybe give the ball to Boston Scott. That's where I'm at.
yeah. I know we started out this podcast at the beginning of this year in training camp and stuff, and we were like, we love Kenny. There's like this is no shot to him, but he doesn't need to be the starter. Um, if you want more chances, I promise you, fumbling the ball right there is not a step in the right direction, especially when you got a guy like DeAndre Swift playing the way that he's playing. There needs to be less times of Kenny, and DeAndre Swift needs to stay in the game because I felt like there were some spots in the game today, especially towards the end in the fourth quarter, where you saw a couple of runs from Kenny Gainwell, and he maybe got a yard or two. And in my head, I was thinking, if you take him out and put DeAndre Swift in that same exact spot, uh, you're probably getting more yardage out of that. Just because I don't know what it is. If DeAndre Swift's vision, like he's able to see the field better than Kenny Gainwell, but he's just more elusive. And I don't know. I just feel we definitely need to dial back the Kenny Gainwell experiment right now, at least because we got some bigger games coming up in the year, and the kind of the softer spot of our schedule is starting to wind down and become a little bit tougher opponents. And if you want to win these games, you got to have your playmakers and your star players on the field at all times. But to transition into the offensive line, I think they played a pretty good game especially against this defensive front. Because I'll give hats off to Washington there. To me, they probably have the best starting four, right? I don't know. Ours matches up pretty well against them. Our defensive line and their defensive line. Our starting four, I would probably, if you're just basing it off starting four, I would probably give it to Washington. They probably have a better starting four defensive line than we do. But we just have so much depth behind them. Our defensive line as a whole is just way better because that's their problem. Their starting four is great, but the guys they bring in after are not great and they're not very good. So if you're able to wear them down, you should be able to beat them pretty easily when it comes to running the ball and pass protection. But to give a little bit of light on one key player, I was actually really impressed with Sua Opeta coming into the game, replacing Cam Jurgens. Seemed like he held his own fairly well against Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen.
Tough matchup.
Very tough matchup to come into. And that was the game this is the game that I was very concerned for Cam Jurgens. I was like, it's probably not going to be the greatest game from him, but he held his own while he was still in. Unfortunately, went down with a foot injury and left the locker room in a walking boot after the game. So, I mean, that's never a great sign, but I mean, at least he wasn't leaving it on crutches or nothing like that. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do right there. It makes me almost curious if they activate Tyler Steen at all and have him play like a backup role, or they, I'm not real sure what they do there. But
I'm gonna say something that might be controversial. I didn't see much drop off between Cam Jurgen and Sua Opeta. I think, in all honesty, I would be okay if Sua started. It
yeah,
it wouldn't bother me. It in all,
Silas he started before.
yeah.
I think it was like 2020 season, like the year that Jalen maybe took over at the end towards there. And I think maybe even been a year before that, Sue actually had to play a lot of games and had to start a handful of games. And I didn't ever think he did bad. If you're not getting talked about as an offensive lineman, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
unless you're like a tackle, like left tackle or right tackle or something like that, and commentators are complimenting what you're doing, if you're not getting talked about, it's probably a good thing because that means you're not letting up a sack or any pressures. So
Yeah, I just like we said, beginning of the season, before the season started, actually, it was like there's always like a little concern with two undersized linemen being right by each other. And Sua, it makes that worry kind of fade away, and maybe him and Cam are equal when it comes to like skill wise, but like at the end of the day, the undersized worry is always going to be there. It's just going to happen,
yeah,
especially whenever you go against a dominant D tackle. And then we got Aaron Donald next week, so
hmm
we'll see what happens there. But overall, great job by the offensive line. I think they allowed one or two sacks. I can't remember. 3 sacks.
three.
Cam Curl, Jonathan Allen, and Chase Young. Chase Young just absolutely bullied Jordan Mailata. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, he ran right by him, and that's the one that is sticking out in my head. Yeah, um, looked like he just got out of his stance quicker than Jordan Mailata did, and Jordan just couldn't recover. But um, hats off to Washington. I'll give them credit where they deserve. They kind of they're very very fortunate that Chase Young is back healthy because that makes that defense a lot scarier than it already is. Um, I was always a fan of Chase Young coming out of college. I was kind of hoping some way the Eagles could get him, but never did happen. But um, yeah, they're very fortunate that he's healthy, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Montez Sweat because I don't think he'll be back next year. I don't think there's no way that they could pay him. Um, but I don't know. I know offensive line did a pretty good job today.
Yep. That pretty much wraps up the offensive portion of this review episode. Is there anything else I could think of that I want to talk about before move on to defense? So Jalen did good, running backs did good, wide receivers obviously the top two had a game.
I think Jalen made some pretty impressive throws. I know his stat line looks really good, but like if you break down and actually watch some of his throws and that he was making, he was throwing into some tight ass windows.
What was
And
that? What was that throw where he threw it, and then I believe like there was a linebacker that was like stretching his arms out, missed it, and I think there was like a safety.
that was the throw to Zacchaeus on 3rd and 11, like fit it right in between them, and that's the one that's sticking out in my head. I was like, holy shit, what a throw! My girlfriend was sitting next to me. She was like, "Why are you so excited about that throw?" I was like, "Because
Did you not
there's,"
see that?
I was like, "There's a handful of people in this world that can only make that throw." And no, it was very impressive. And like the one they had in the first quarter that it was like an RPO to Dallas Goddard, and Dallas ran a slant and kind of threw it behind Dallas, but that was the only place that he could throw it. And he got that ball out quick, and it barely got over the top of Jamin Davis's hand. Like his fingertip almost touched the ball. I was like, dude, that is insane. That's one thing about Jalen. He's very accurate. I mean, he's a very accurate quarterback. Biggest thing was coming out of college is like his arm strength, and can throw the ball consistently. But I don't know. He's taking a massive step. I know that.
Yeah, and this, and like I said last week, I don't know if it was with you or if it was with Josh, but Jalen is this calm, cool, collected type guy, and you think nothing phases him. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and you know we're all affected by outside noise, whether we try to block it out or not. We're going to hear something's going to sneak in, and you're going to hear it. Getting a little bit of confidence is what I feel like Jalen needs. Is just saying, hey, hey, you still do it. I know the first couple of weeks have been bad. People have been taking away your deep shots that you want to throw, but seeing him throw that ball to AJ felt good. Seeing him throw the ball to Devontae felt good. And
Yep.
then just like these little like that, the sideline ball to AJ was a beauty.
Oh
That
my
Dallas
God.
Goedert pass was a beauty. That Olamide Zaccheaus pass, beauty. Like he has it.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like something's off, and it has to be. I'm chalking up as something mental at this point because there are times where he stays in the pocket and he shouldn't be in the pocket. He should dip, and there's times where he leaves the pocket and he
Yeah,
should stay in the pocket.
that's one of the bigger ones that I've seen. Is like I almost feel like he's abandoning the pocket way a lot more than he did last year at the start of the year, and I feel like it's getting him in trouble sometimes because like he's running a. It's almost like he's running away from his receivers, and I understand your receivers are they're supposed to go with the quarterback when in scramble drills and stuff like that. But if you're completely running away from the route concepts, you're taking away almost any kind of throw that you have. And I feel like that's what a lot of it is kind of happening right now. Because they'll show some replays of it and they'll be like, oh, this guy was wide open or this guy got open at later in the route. But I mean, if anybody's ever played football, you could understand from an eyes of a quarterback. You just can't you can't see everything, and so. But at the same time, I'm glad he's not taking these sacks and taking these hits. Uh, but there is times where I feel like he is jumping out of the pocket a little too early. But that's also stuff you can clean up. It's not things that are drastically a problem right now, obviously, because I mean we're 4-0. It's not like we're 1-3 or 2-2 or nothing like that.
We're winning games.
Yeah, we're still winning football games, and that's what I was gonna say. It's not like we're the Bengals right now,
Yeah.
and it's like Joe Burrow can't figure it out. It seems like I don't know what's going on with him. If it's the hamstring that's bothering him or what's
He's a
going on.
calf.
Yeah, it's something. I can't I don't know what's going on with that team, but there's no reason for that team to get their ass beat by the Titans like they did today. I don't think the Titans are that great of a team. I think the Bengals are light years better than them, but it didn't look like it today.
Titans always one word games, so
Yeah,
that's the only thing with Titans. To wrap up the offensive part, the one thing he did bring up is like he dips out of the pocket. There's a lot of plays where he'll dip out of the pocket and he's going like the opposite way where he'd have to throw across his body. Um, he'll roll out to his left, and obviously if you are right-handed and you roll out to your left, you have to like turn your body and throw it. It's just never going to work out. Not in an NFL setting, unless you are some absolute elite passer. Even
yeah,
those guys don't make
and
those
have
throws.
like incredible arm strength, like
Yeah.
stupid arm strength.
Yeah, so like, you'll see him roll out to his left, and you're like, well, this play's over because nothing's going to come out of it. There'll be a time where he sets his feet and throws it downfield. It'll be a special play, but there's that. And the last thing I'll say is, it almost looks like he's slower this year. But I feel like he's been taught, and they probably bashed him and said, hey, we pay you a lot of money now. Don't
He's a
take
little
as
bit
many
more
chances.
cautious.
Yeah. And so like he'll slide, and I'm like, man, like last year Jalen would have tried to truck somebody. And it's kind of sad in a way, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. As long as we win games and it's not losing us games, I don't care. Um, but that's the offense. If on like a school grade scale, like obviously F, A plus. What would you give the offense today?
Um, A minus. I'd give him an A minus. Because I mean it's hard to because I'm trying to think of some flaws that they had today, but they're hard to find, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a good thing. They obviously didn't play to the best of their capabilities that we know that they can play at, but they played enough. They played well enough to get this win.
Yes.
And it was a lot more exciting than previous weeks. So
Yeah, you're right there. Especially because we're accustomed to big splash plays, and we haven't really had one besides. Well, let's see. Did Devontae have a big splash play in week 2 against the Vikings?
yeah,
Yeah,
he had two
touchdown.
actually. He had one in the first quarter, that jump ball, caught it, and then he had the touchdown.
It just seems like they're less. They're not there like they were last year. So see him, it feels like it's like, oh man, you feel all good inside, and you just don't expect it. But my grade, I was going to hover on the B plus A minus territory as well, just because we got to see flashes of brilliance. I feel like Brian Johnson's kind of finding his stride. He's working out the kinks, and I predicted this way back when. I said that we would have struggle just because there was change, and it wasn't going to be this smooth, like seamless transition. And we see that now. So, I will say this: the offense was clicking whenever the defense could get like stops, and we get the ball back pretty quickly. We're already in rhythm. Brian Johnson's kind of still in his rhythm, and so we could like start firing on all cylinders once we got the ball back. So yeah, I'd be B plus A minus for me. Before we go to the defense, I want to talk about this. The refs were
Dude, that was
horrendous.
literally what I was just thinking in my head. I
They
was like,
were horrible. Sure, that Darius Slay thing you could call it if you want it, but 90% of the refs are not calling that.
yeah.
The Landon Dickerson offsides, not or Deron Payne or whoever it was
Had his
had
fucking
his
hand underneath the ball.
underneath the ball and touching helmets with Jason Kelsey. You gotta be kidding me. What else happened?
The James Bradbury holding. What
Oh
the
yeah,
fuck was that?
there was nothing, and then
That gave me PTSD to the Super Bowl. I was like, oh my God.
there was nothing, and then on top of that, the commentators Daryl Johnston and I forgot his name already. What's his name? Joe Davis. Joe Davis.
Mhm.
Yeah, were awful. They were awful. It was not a fun experience to watch the game at home because they were like, "Oh, look, Brandon Graham with a sack," or no, like Jalen Carter with a sack, and it was like fucking Brandon Graham that made it happen or whatever it was. It was like, come on, man, it's
And
not
then
hard.
they said the one that stood out to me was DeAndre Swift was running. Jason Kelsey was downfield. Daryl Johnson spits out and says Travis Kelsey,
Travis
number
Kelsey, yeah.
62. I'm like, what are
What
you
is
doing?
going on up there, man? But the refs were awful, and you're going to hear that a lot probably from any podcast you listen to that
Oh, dude.
have like fans of teams.
Yeah,
You're going to hear it.
I seen on Twitter one of the Eagles pages. He was like, he was talking about, dude, like, don't let the Eagles win take away from the fact. He was like, dude, in all of my 30 years of watching football, I have never seen an officiating crew try to take away a win from a team because
Yeah,
it was some of the shit was blatant. I mean, they show the replays of it, and I'm like, where are you calling it? The Darius Slay slant that was one that pissed me off more than anything, dude. That is blanket coverage, dude. Like that ball was not
he
should have
didn't hook
never
him.
really been. No,
He didn't hook him.
No, first of all, probably should have never been thrown because I don't know if I'm a quarterback and I see that, I'm like, that read's taken away. I'm not throwing that. It's knowing the player that's covering and Darius Slay, a very good corner still in his age. I'm not throwing that. But that flag was egregious, dude. I was like,
Well,
what are you seeing to throw that?
that was bad, and also the Nicholas Morrow hold was bad. It
Yeah.
like they were saying in the broadcast. I didn't agree with a lot of things they were saying in that broadcast, but this was important. It was like we're not giving up a lot of penalty yards, but like holding, pass
They were in
interference,
big spots too. Like,
and then that Terrell Edmonds, roughing the, or like or what was it called? Unnecessary roughness.
yeah.
You
What is
cannot
he?
call that.
Yeah, what is he supposed to do there?
You cannot call that. You want him to hold up and let the quarterback just be like, "Oh, he can't hit
Get the
me, so I'm
first
gonna get the
down.
first down." There is no way you can call that.
Pretty sure Jimmy
It,
Kempsky tweeted that out and was like, dude, that is the most horseshit call I've ever seen in my life. Because as a defender, what are you supposed to like?
what are you supposed to? And
You
then
are taught to stop
and
from a
then
first down.
speaking of that, the Logan Thomas catch where Terrell Edmonds also got the necessary
Necessary
roughness.
roughness.
What are you supposed to do? He lowered his head so he wouldn't hit the head, and then Logan Thomas,
Yeah.
of course, concussion prone player, wants to lower his head too. Like, come on, what are you
Yeah.
supposed to do? There's nothing
Yeah.
you can do in that situation. This
It's,
is awful.
yeah, it's bad. That I never want to play in a 12 slot game again if that's going to be my officiating crew.
Man,
Absolutely not. Dude, that shit was terrible. I
well,
didn't understand some of the stuff that they were. Dude, okay, so I understand the intentional grounding. I get it.
yeah,
AJ, it was miscommunication, but I still think that there's officiating crews that's in this league that don't throw that flag. I don't think
yeah.
they throw that.
I've
There's
seen it. I
some,
mean, I've seen it happen before, and it wasn't called.
yeah. It's just I think that's a spot in the game where it doesn't really affect what the outcome is if you do throw it. So I don't think you throw it. If 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 that was me, and this is completely unbiased aside, obviously you know where he's trying to throw the ball. You know where he's wanting to throw it. There's just miscommunication in the route itself. So, and in my mind, I'm not throwing that flag because what is this going to do for the flow of the game? For one, it's going to fuck it all up. I mean, it's just I don't know. I thought it was a weird, but I can understand. I could understand why they threw it. I just wouldn't personally throw it myself.
Yeah, I mean, by the laws of like the rule, that is intentional grounding, sure. But at the same time, it's like one of those things where it's like you could tell like he was under pressure and he thought that his wide receivers was going to go down there. So I want to kind of transition this to it's going to kind of transition together. This next topic is how do you feel about that taunting penalty on AJ? Do you think that was
That's
the
horseshit,
softest?
dude.
It
Dude,
was
that
the
is so.
softest
Dude, that's
like
so
taunting call
soft.
ever.
Oh my god, I've seen. Okay, so let me date back to last year, the Steelers game when
That was
AJ hit
taunting. That was taunting.
that. I could understand pointing at him. Yes, it's taunting. Or the second touchdown he had where he caught it on both of them, gave him the too little. Yeah, like you too small. They didn't throw a flag on that one, and he was staring at Minka Fitzpatrick when he did that and let him know you are too little. I could understand that that's taunting, but he sat the ball on the ground in front of him and took off running.
Did
What
he
are we doing?
did he say bitch? He was like, "Here you go, bitch." They heard it. Like, oh shit, gotta call that one.
Yeah.
There's no way that he's like
Yeah.
he placed the ball down all nicely and ran away. It's not like he stepped over him
Or
or
like spiked it on top of him or something, or
like smacked him with the head with the ball. Like, here you go,
or
motherfucker.
or just stood and stared at him for a minute. No, he didn't do none of that.
That
He
was
set it
stupid.
down and ran off.
That
But
was so
that
stupid.
in my mind when I initially watched the replay, that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, there had to be officials standing close, and he called him a soft ass bitch or something and took off.
Get your weight up, little boy. Something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
Because like they were like, oh, they called it. They called the penalty on TV. They called the penalty. They didn't show a replay. Didn't show a replay. Finally showed a replay. I was like, oh, that's it. I'm like, that's it. Like, come on. Like, they do that in like little league. And, this like, hey, place the ball right down. But
Yeah.
but
I played high school football. You know how many times I did that to people? It never had nothing called on me. Oh my god.
But that brings me up to my next point is So the broadcast was like very upset with the call to go deep and try to score a touchdown there. Obviously, look at it like hindsight wise, you're like, oh, okay, well, they scored a touchdown anyway. You could have just kind of ran the clock down and
But in also hindsight, as a team, you have enough faith in your defense to get a stop there for one. You should at least. I know the score was a lot and we gave up a lot of points, but I really don't think the defense played that bad of a game.
Great transition, by the way.
Yeah, I really don't think they played that bad of a game. I thought the one thing I did not like was that shell coverage shit that reminded me so much of Jim Schwartz that it almost made me sick, bro. Oh my God, it made me sick to watch.
Yeah, but well, what was sickening about that was they had like 6 yards to go and they're playing 10 yards off the ball. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And math is not math in here.
And then nobody was guarding the pylon. And Josh Jobe is just sitting on the inside. Like, of course, you throw it to the outside. It's going to be a catch for a touchdown. What are we doing? Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's talk about the D-line real quick. D-line.
So, about that, yeah.
Go for
it. Didn't make take it from you. But there's just one thing I wanted to point out because it ties into both defensive line and the secondary. The defensive line had a whopping 32 pressures today and had Nicholas Morrow had three sacks himself.
Defensive line had 2 sacks.
Yeah, the defensive line themselves had 2 sacks. You have 32 pressures and you generate 2 sacks out of the defensive line. That's bullshit. That falls on the pass coverage is exactly what that falls on. And it was absolutely the shell zone defense is what was causing that. If I am Sean Desai, I have to look myself in the mirror and be like, okay, this is what I have as a defensive line. This is a defensive line that had over 70 sacks last year. And only one of those notable players left. And you replace it with a 9th overall pick who is probably still after this game where he didn't generate that like a good a game as he has, is probably still your defensive rookie of the year. Is probably, let's be real here, probably in close runnings with defensive player of the year. I mean, he's up there. And then you still are returning every other player that you have on your defense. I am lining up in man coverage and saying, go get them. And we're pressing, making it hard on them. And because that's what it's got to be at this point. I'm so sick of getting on Twitter and looking at Jalen Carter had 6 pressures, no sacks. Josh Sweat today, 9 pressures, career high, 9 pressures. Hassan Reddick, shit ton of pressures, which he looked actually really good today. He looked more explosive today. Yeah, looked more explosive today than he has in any other game this year so far. Which I also think it's probably the cast. I could see where that was being a problem, but like he said, there's no excuse for it. But yeah, there's no possible way that you have 32 pressures in a game and you have 2 sacks from your defensive line from it.
Yeah. The problem I had is like we have like this awesome defensive line going up against Washington's like subpar offensive line. And so if you play 6 yards, 7 yards off the ball, they're going to take what you give them, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. They took what we gave them. And so we could have this, we have this great defensive line, but if we can't guard somebody and we can't press anybody, we're not going to get these sacks that we want.
Yeah.
And so like, it's not on the DBs, it's the scheme, right? because like there's only so much you can do playing 6 yards off the ball, 7 yards off the ball. If they run a curl, guess what? Catch every time because Sam Howell's looking exactly like for it. He's looking for it.
Mhm.
It's an easy read, like pre-snap, and so that's my biggest issue. D line, I feel like they had a great game. I think
Let me read the top 5 leaders in pressures today. Josh Sweat, 9. Hassan Reddick was 7. Brandon Graham was 6. Fletcher Cox with 4. And Jalen Carter with 6. There's got to be a sack in here somewhere, dude.
has to be.
I mean, multiple sacks need to come from that.
Do you see Fletcher Cox push down Sam Howell? That was fun.
Shove the shit out of him.
That was fun. I will say this: a lot of times when I was watching Jalen Carter, and like I've said repeatedly, is whenever Jalen Carter gets in the game, Jordan Davis in the game, he's got to watch.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of times he would like try to be the lowest man, but then they would like push him on the ground, and he would get
there
on
was
the
a couple
ground.
times where they were just like clubbing him and shoving him to the ground. But one thing I have noticed from him is, dude, I don't know how he gets so many pressures and gets to the quarterback so good because you know me and we've talked about it before. I'll strictly watch trench work. It like offense and defensive line. My eye is like fixated to the line of scrimmage every time. Jalen Carter seems like he has absolutely no pass rush moves. It's either a club or
Bull rush.
or a swim,
Absolutely.
and if neither of those work the first time, he's just gonna reset his hands and shove your ass backwards.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he has so many pressures sometimes. I mean, he just has to be one of the strongest individuals ever. For him to get so many pressures off of like my first initial move, it doesn't work. You're like, oh shit. Now just bull rush this dude straight backwards.
Yeah. It is funny because it does seem like he will reset and just start pushing people backwards. But to wrap up the line, good on Hassan Reddick for getting a sack finally. It's nice to see him do his little celebration, and obviously the Josh Sweat one's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see them. Hopefully, at some point this year, they can all kind of eat.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the linebackers. Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow. Let me tell you something. There might be a linebacker controversy in Philadelphia.
I love them.
Yeah,
I love them.
I do too.
They play with a lot of passion, is what I'm saying. Like they play with a lot of passion and a lot of heart.
Before you continue, that Zach Cunningham, I think it was Curtis Samuel, where he ran by him and he grabbed him by the back of the jersey and was like, "Nah, where are you going?"
It just pulled him straight backwards.
That's a tough tackle. That's a tough tackle.
So they even talked about the commentators. They were like, "What grip strength by Zach Cunningham?"
To have a guy having full forward momentum and then you're just grabbing him and stopping it and then pulling him back to you to the ground, that is incredible.
That you just have to feel so vulnerable as a grown man. You're like, oh my god.
He's tossing you by his shirt.
His
shirt. And he's tossing you on the ground. That was crazy.
Yeah. So did Zach lead the team in tackles today? I think
Zach at 13, yes. Zach at 13, the next two were Nicholas Morrow and Darius Slay with 11.
Darius Slay had 11 tackles today?
11 tackles, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So I tweeted this out on both accounts because let me tell you something. For the people listening, I'm absolutely hammered and I don't know how I'm doing this podcast right now. I am focused right now. I am locking it in. But I tweeted this on both accounts because I was like, oh crap, I tweeted on the wrong account. So I switched it up. How can you take Nicholas Morrow out of the lineup when Kobe Dean comes in? He is playing out of his mind. He had 11 tackles, three sacks, 3 tackles for losses. Like
you can't replace Zach Cunningham neither.
Because he's great against the run and he's a great tackler. Like it is going to be so hard to put Kobe Dean in. Nicholas Morrow is by far my favorite player right now to watch. I don't know why he is. I hate him so much in training camp. Yeah. But he is so good. And
he is. I seen something, a tweet that just described it perfectly. They were like, it is so prominent, and you can definitely see that Nicholas Morrow is just a gamer. He is not a practice player at all because they were like, what the hell? They were like, he was so bad in training camp and OTAs and stuff like that. Like they were saying, they were like, he was awful. And there was like, now he gets into games and I don't understand how the fuck he got cut because of Christian Ellis. Like that doesn't make sense. But he's definitely like he has to be just a straight up gamer. He's like one of those Allen Iverson. We talking about practice type of players. Like I don't know, man. It is so fun to watch. What makes me sad is I know neither one of them is going to get another contract. They're not going to get extended, I don't think, because it makes it seem like because obviously I guess when you're like Howie, you bring these guys off the street. What makes you think somebody else can't do it like off the street? But I don't know. I love to watch them play. It's very cool.
I think Nicholas Morrow could get another contract here. I feel like I don't know what they're going to do when the Kobe Dean comes back. But you know how they tell you whenever running backs they get small when they go through a hole. Nicholas Morrow does the exact same thing as a linebacker. He sees a hole, he'll hit it, and he'll get small, and he'll squeeze through the line, and he'll be running free. Watching him and Zach Cunningham blitz the quarterback is phenomenal to watch. It's so fun to watch because Zach Cunningham isn't as fast as Nicholas Morrow, but Zach Cunningham gets there.
Zach Cunningham has some hit power too. Like he takes on blocks and he will knock people back that probably weigh 50 to 60 pounds heavier than he does, knock them completely backwards. Like, cause I went back and watched the safety from last week's game. First of all, Nicholas Morrow, like you were talking about, got skinny through a hole and completely blew that shit up. And then I watched what Zach Cunningham did, and dude, it's been so long since I've actually seen a linebacker do this. Just read, react, and realize that the only thing standing between you and the running back is a guard. And he ran straight through this dude and lowered his head and just bull rushed him, just straight through him, knocked him completely on his ass. And I was like, dude, that is the football I grew up and loved to watch. Like, that's what made me fall in love with this sport.
Yeah, and then, you look at Zach Cunningham, there was this run, I believe, in like the third or fourth quarter. I think it was Antonio Gibson, where he was running to the outside, and Zach Cunningham stood him up, and he didn't give up any yards. He took him to the out of bounds. It was like a good 20 yards. He was fighting. They're just fighting each other, but he didn't get any yard off of it. Zach Cunningham's phenomenal. Pass coverage, obviously shaky, but he was a great pickup. Definitely underrated pickup by Howie. He's playing out of his mind. Hopefully he stays healthy because him and Nicholas Morrow, they took a huge question mark at linebacker and turned it into like a solid piece. Yeah, and that's all we could have asked for.
They've played well beyond expectations, is what I could say.
Yeah, Nicholas Morrow could earn a Pro Bowl spot. In all honesty, he could. 3 sacks as a linebacker, an off-ball linebacker, crazy, absolutely crazy. Especially for this team and this game.
He's got to work on a sack celebration. I will say that.
He probably didn't expect to have 3 sacks.
Yeah, this entire year.
Yeah, he probably didn't. I mean, I think somebody tweeted out the last off-ball linebacker for the Eagles to have more than 2 sacks or 2 sacks or more was Michael Kendricks in like 2013. So it's been 11 years, 10 years. But yeah, linebackers, awesome. Do you think Kobe Dean's going to get the spot back whenever he comes back, or how do you think it's going to play out? We do have one more week with both of them for sure, and then week 6. Who we play week 6? Is that the Jets?
I think it's the Jets game.
Oh, buddy. Okay. Week 6 will be whenever Nakobe Dean can come back if he's healthy.
Let me look and see who we play week 6.
I think it's the Jets, and it's the Dolphins, and then it's the Commanders.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That exact order. One thing I am a little scared of, Cooper Kupp might come back next week, which is shaky, but don't care. N'Kobe Dean. I
I don't know.
To
I
me,
don't know.
there's no way you can play him right now. The way them two are playing, there's no way you can shake that shit up.
Do you
Just
think
to my knowledge, I
it's more
think.
likely to like let's say they do put Kobe Dean back into the game. Do you think it's more likely that Zach Cunningham gets benched, or do you think it's Nicholas Morrow that gets benched?
I think it might be Zach Cunningham, but God, I don't want to see that,
I don't
dude.
want to see either because
I
like
don't.
he's so good against the run, and that's the thing is like the Kobe Dean and Zach Cunningham are pretty much the same player. They're good against the run, and they're good at blitzing. They're not great against pass coverage. Whereas Nicholas Morrow is very serviceable at pass coverage. So like it's like I don't know what to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So just cut Christian Ellis at this point.
Yeah,
Not
we don't
really,
have a need for you, bud.
but he's great on special teams.
Stay solid. I was about to say, stay solid on special teams is about all I can ask.
But yeah, like I said, linebacker was a concern. Now it feels okay. Move on to secondary. Okay, secondary. Cornerbacks, I feel like played good. Maybe outside of Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe had his moments where he like that
He had a tough
second
time.
that second back shoulder fade pass they tried to do where he broke it up. Phenomenal. The rest of the game, shaky. I do think I think he's okay.
Yeah,
I don't think you can go into the rest of the year with him as your outside cornerback and James Bradbury as the slot cornerback. I think that we have to make a trade at some point for a slot guy. But Darius Slay had a decent game. I feel like Darius Slay's been solid all year. Plus, he had 11 tackles, which is crazy for a court cornerback, especially for Darius Slay. Darius Slay doesn't want to make a tackle. He doesn't.
no,
He doesn't want to do it. But he did it. Got hurt. Missed one play, I think. Then got back out there. James Bradbury had a solid game. Boy, let me tell you something. Let me tell you who didn't have a good game. This guy stinks, and I can't wait for him to not be on the team anymore. I feel like he's going to be gone at some point. Terrell Edmonds. So let me think of a couple plays that he messed up on. That easy pick in the end zone. Let me tell you, could have picked it. We could have had it could have been blown up. It could have been blown at that point. He picks it off and we start moving the ball downfield. There was a time where he had a sack and he just didn't. He's like missed. He whiffed. Terrible. You cannot miss a sack with a safety. You're too athletic. You're supposed to be too athletic and too skillful to not get that sack. Then there was where else? He had obviously two big penalties. Overall, not a good game for him. Not a good game for him. And coming to the season, you expect a little bit more because he was solid in Pittsburgh. But this,
give me Justin Evans back.
you never thought you'd say that. Justin
Yeah,
Evans, come back,
never.
baby. Like, Sidney Brown come back, play the slot, so Josh Jobe can sit on the bench. But in all seriousness, Josh Jobe does need these reps because who knows, he might be the starting cornerback next year. At this point,
Yeah,
so I don't think he's bad. I think he's learning, and I think that last play was awful because you have 7 other guys on the inside. Why are you going the inside or the outside? But Reed had a good game.
and he's becoming a star
For our very own eyes.
Yeah, he could very well end this year as being one of the top safeties in the league. I mean, he's playing very, very well.
Yes.
And it's so fun to watch him come downhill and make tackles because like if he's coming downhill and it's almost like if he gets his hands on you, you're not breaking that tackle. And his biggest thing was like kind of being shaky in pass coverage and understanding zone concepts and stuff like that.
He's been solid.
Dude, he's been amazing. Excellent break on the ball. That play that with Terry McLaurin on the sideline sacrificed my man's arm just so he could be out of bounds. But I mean, he's a very, very good safety, and I think he's going to be here for a long, long time.
Hope he is because the fans love him, and they've grown to love him too because he's so solid and he has like that underdog story where he were undrafted from Middle Tennessee State University, and you are now starting and you you are like the centerpiece of this defense. Not really, because of Darius Slade, Bradbury. But as far as like the safeties go, you're definitely the centerpiece, like you're an important piece of the defense. And he stepped up to the challenge. And he's done it. He's played well. He will have a missed tackle here and there, but for the most part, 90% of the time he's making the tackle. He's gonna make the play on the ball like he did today. He almost had a pick. He did have a kind of a bad angle on that ball.
Yeah.
But he did okay. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about. There's that play. I don't remember if you know, or I don't know if you remember it. It was so Sam Howell was dropping back, and I can't remember if it was Josh Jobe or James Bradbury, and there was nobody on the inside, and all Sam Howell had to do was throw the ball the other half of the field, and it'd be a touchdown. But he threw it back on the other side because the cornerback was expecting inside help. He said on the outside, I think it was James Bradbury.
Yeah. It was.
We got bailed out right there.
Mm-hmm.
We got bailed out. But I brought that up because I want to say Sam Howell's ass. And to anybody listening, Sam Howell's ass. Good luck, Washington, because you'll need a quarterback for years to come. Because he's ass. Anything else about the defense you want to talk about before we move on to our Lord and Savior, Jake Elliott?
Nope. I like it.
I do want to say this. Braden Mann is like Aaron Sipos 2.0. Not impressed by it at all, but
it's so bad. I see somebody tweeted out the Eagles just might have to take on the whole Sonic punter and let him practice let him get an audition for 2 weeks, and if he sucks, cut him and bring in another one.
Man, at this point, yeah, because he's bad too. He's not good. Let's see. Britton Covey had a decent game, 3 for 38, along with 20.
I feel like he's not getting a lot of love that he deserves. I think Britton's actually been pretty good this year.
I mean, I hated him 2 weeks.
You're a hater. Yeah, you're just a hater, dude.
He won my heart last week, and I look forward to him returning punts until he fucks up again. But let's talk about this. Jake Elliott. Is he the best kicker in the NFL? I think so. I think so.
He is. I think he may have taken the spot from Justin Tucker.
And it's nice to follow. It's like he's finally getting his flowers because he's been awesome for us for the past 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
He's been awesome. He did have like one down year, but ever since, like, besides that year, he's been this got to be at least top 5, top 3 kicker in the NFL. And we stole him from Cincinnati's practice squad, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So what a steal!
He's a weapon, dude.
Yeah, he was. Remember his rookie year, he kicked a crucial kick in the Super Bowl, made it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a time! And then, what was it? 51-yard field goal for the win.
Mm-hmm. Right down the pipe.
Right down the pipe. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. When that ball got up in the air, I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna go right." I was like,
"Yeah."
Oh, but then I saw a hook. I was like, "Oh, we're so good."
Yeah. That was a great game. He saved our ass a couple times in this game. He made some big kicks.
He did. Even that kickoff, after the AJ Brown taunting penalty was a pretty big kick because he at least got it to like the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
Especially after losing 15 yards. But Jake Elliott's the best kicker in the NFL. That's what I'll have to say. That's my final words on that. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we kind of move on is you think that Terry McLaurin catch or no catch was actual catch or no? Because I've seen it on Twitter. People are sharing that one screenshot, and I'm sure anybody listening will see it at some point. They're sharing a picture, and it. So, spoiler alert: that picture that they're sharing, Terry McLaurin's foot is on Reed Blankenship's arm, and so it's above the grass. It's not touching the grass. But from what you saw, on television and throughout, the pictures and stuff, do you think that was a catch, or do you think it was a kickoff?
My initial reaction when I first seen it, I thought he may have got like his toe in, like the tip of his cleat in, but I don't know. It was definitely the camera angles that they were showing weren't the easiest to
They weren't.
like to determine anything, but I don't really have much of an opinion on it. What can we do about it now? But
Hey, what can we do about it? They called it. That's not a catch. Here's my opinion on it. It wasn't a catch. I think that from the angles we saw, it definitely looked like his whole foot, like the middle of his cleat, was on Reed Blankenship's arm, and then his toe landed out of bounds.
yeah,
There are people that are like, well, there are some people on Twitter that were like, well, isn't his arm part of the field now? No. So, and they're like, well, that's how it should be. It's a terrible rule by the NFL. So you're telling me if the tackler is on the ground and he touches you, you should be down because that's what you're saying at this point.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But people talk about it for a while. Um, I guess Commanders fans will. Um, but coaching wise, give them a grade. I know they made some boneheaded decisions. Example: Kenneth Gainwell, 3rd and 11 rush, and then that legal formation, 3rd and 1, or they accepted the penalty, made 3rd and 5, and then we played 7 yards off the ball. So give me your grade for the coaching staff, and then we'll move. We'll wrap this show up.
I'll give it like a B minus right now because they made some adjustments when they needed to, but they also did not. Like there were some of the things that just weren't working, and I think could definitely do better. And but I feel like B minus is pretty solid because I'm happy to see what Brian Johnson opened up the passing game a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks like he went from like 20% of his playbook. He finally opened it up to at least like 70%. I know you gotta say some things for different teams and whatnot, but it was nice to see him not be what I feel like what is like super conservative for once. I'm gonna give him a C plus. That like I understand why you didn't uh decline the penalty on that 3rd and 1, but you can't decline it and then play so far off where they can just run like a little curl route and then
Mm-hmm.
like a little easy pitch and catch.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Brian
seen some
Johnson,
stuff on. I was seeing some stuff on Twitter. Some people were not happy about the clock management that they had in this game. I guess
regarding
it just.
regards to what?
I guess it was referring to like the 2 minute drill at the end of the game at the fourth quarter where they scored
Oh yeah,
the AJ thing. But at the same time, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with 7 than 3. But I understand because you're also playing into the possibility of Jake missing, as crazy that is to sound, but still, I mean, it is a possibility. But I think you always, I don't know. To me, you always try to go for the win with offense, and not rely on. If you're relying on your special teams, it means like you don't really have much faith in your offense. That's how I per- perceive it, and not how I take it. But I don't know.
and speaking of going for the win with your offense, what a terrible decision by Ron Rivera to not go for the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. What a terrible decision. I feel like if you look up any type of analytic, like like if you're going by analytics and you got your analytic guy in your ear, he's like, well, it says we should go for it. And you choose to kick the extra point. That's awful. That's so
Coward.
bad. Like you should go for the win and not make us watch overtime. That's basically what it is. Um, and honestly, if they went for 2, I don't see us stopping them there. I really
No,
don't.
hell no. I think we lose that game. I was
Yeah.
concerned that they were going for it. I was like, oh shit, we lost. It's
And
over.
the sad thing was I was expecting a run right up the middle where it just ended like that. But he went for
Yeah.
the extra point. Thank God he did. And the Eagles walk out the game 4-0. To wrap this up, final thoughts. At the end of the day, the Eagles are 4-0. It's not how you play in September and October. It's really how you play in December and January. So as long as the Eagles are improving week by week, I feel like you can't be discouraged to the point where you're like super concerned. And so that's why like I'm where I'm at. I'm maybe more optimistic than most Eagles fans. During the game, I'm not optimistic at all. But when you like sit here and reflect about it,
Yeah.
it's hard to not be optimistic. The defense, sure, they struggled today, in some aspects, but I feel like they played good. Same with the offense, they struggled, but I feel like they played good. They played better than what they have in the past. Um, and you're not going to get like 10 sack performances from your defensive line and your defense in general. It's just
No.
not going to happen, even though we might be going up against a terrible offensive line. It's just not going to happen. And at the end of the day, it's a divisional matchup, so it's going to be close. It's just how it is. You're always going to play your divisional opponents tougher.
Yeah.
So just be happy we're 4-0. We play the Rams next week, who I'm not completely bought into. And we play the Jets. So we have time to figure it out before we play our tough matchups when it comes to the Dolphins, the Bills, the Cowboys, 49ers, all of them. We got time to figure it out. And the Chiefs, I guess. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just be happy with the win, and don't look too deep into it. Otherwise, just not good right.
Yep. That's exactly how I feel.
So that being said, this has been the Linc Lineup. We will be back at some point this week to talk about the next matchup against the Rams. Thank God it's a 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock matchup, depending where you're at. 4 Eastern, so I'm gonna call it 4. Because man, 1 o'clock was rough today. It was rough. I was happy about it, but I do not like playing 1 o'clock. But episode 14, kind of moving on. We're making it happen. But you can follow me on X at Cardiac Chase. You can follow Bryce on X at I am Bryce Haynes. Make sure to follow all of our socials at the Linc Lineup. If you're listening on any of those streaming sites, give us a review. Good one, preferably a good one. That way, we can get out there. It'll be recommended for other Eagles fans. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. But until next time, as always, go Birds.
Go Birds.